to speak to. And I think that really works.
Yes, yes, I think so too. And in fact, we're not ever going to probably go to being in person all the time. We might do a hybrid of some sessions in person, some on Zoom, but probably still the majority on Zoom. So folks, we start on time, we end on time. Let's go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining today. You should be able to see my PowerPoint slide, right? That says we are recording the session. I always tell people jokingly, if you do not want to be recorded, turn off your camera, go on mute, change your name, and we wouldn't even know that you were here. Wow. Welcome to the Agile Austin Leaders Special Interest Group. That's a picture of Austin there. When I moved to Austin in 2001, the majority of those skyscrapers did not exist. We've had a big tech boom in the last 20 years, and it's not stopping. It's not stopping. For those of you that just joined, I said to people, feel free to put your name in the chat, your role, the company you're at, etc., etc. Are there any job opportunities that you might be interested in? Does your company have some? Let's make it as interactive as possible on chat, but please do go on mute if you have not yet. Agile Austin. This special interest group is part of the larger Agile Austin organization that started in 2007. I've been a part of it since about 2009, 2010. We are a nonprofit. Not going to go through all the details. On a meetup, we have over 5,200 people. We have about 125 paying members, etc., etc. It's a fun bunch of people. Okay. Shout out to our sponsors. Our sponsors make so much possible. If you are one of the sponsors, whether with Agile Velocity, Casas and everything, say hello in the chat and the sponsor that you are with. Our sponsors really played a big role for our big sessions that we do, like our conferences. And when we met in person, we would always have pizza and drinks. Yes, I know it was always pizza, and some people got tired of pizza, but it was complimentary pizza, folks. Okay. If you haven't yet, please feel free to join Agile Austin on Meetup. All our special interest groups, they get posted every month, whether you're interested at scaling Agile frameworks or coaching SIG or our Scrum Master SIG, they're all there. So if you just sign up, then you'll get all the alerts. And we have our YouTube channel. It was like a big deal to get it up and going like a few months ago. You know, we just procrastinated like a little bit there, and now we're going viral. We're going big time. So this is being recorded and will be on our YouTube channel. So the purpose of the SIG, this one in particular, is to bring people together that are interested in leading Agile adoptions and transformations. Whether you want to learn, whether you want to share, it doesn't matter what kind of a role you have, executives, tester, a developer. If you have any kind of an interest in having to learn on how to lead Agile adoptions, that's what we talk about here. Max Ekesi, I was the founder of this SIG in 2011, November. We're coming up on our 10-year anniversary soon. Have to think about doing something. It's a decade. And I like to tell folks that a lot has changed in 10 years. Like when we first started to meet, we were talking about how can we train people on Scrum? How can we teach people about story point estimation? Like we were very specific. Fast forward to now, and for the last few years, we've talked about enhancing trust among the team, having a focus on the team instead of the individual, as we're going to hear today, et cetera, and et cetera. But that's just a sample of the transformation in Agile, that what it takes to lead has evolved a lot, and we have evolved along with that. I am an enterprise agile coach at Whole Foods. I've been doing a lot with the Whole Foods Amazon integration of tools and all that fun stuff. I'm also the vice president of Agile Austin, and I just won the election for president of
Yay!
Agile Austin. Thank you. Thank you. It was very
Good job,
tough.
Max.
It was very tough to
was close,
win an
wasn't it?
election when it's only me that ran for president. It was tough, but don't get caught in the details, okay? Folks, ping me with any questions. I'll put my info in the chat soon also. And as always, we have a guest speaker, and we just talk around a particular topic every time we meet. That's how it rolls, right? We used to be in person. Do you remember that? We used to be at our big sponsor, Agile Velocity, and meet in person. But on the other hand, we can now like have people globally that attend. We not only have people from all parts of the US, we've always got a Canadian. There's always a Canadian. Please put where you're joining from, okay? And we get people from Europe and Africa, and I think that's truly exciting. It's truly exciting. And the last thing I'll say before I hand over to Johanna, I'm gonna let her do her introduction and her topic and everything. So excited to hear about this topic today because we do work as teams. No SIG on July 2nd. Happy 4th of July. We'll be coming back on August 6th with Ned from Austin. It's also nice to have an Austin speaker from time to time and talking about pushing decision-making down. Let's like press that down and see how can we do more of that. And there's actually the art of action. There are books, there's historic facts about this and all of that. And Terry from Houston will be joining us in September. If you, as I conclude, I would just like to say, if you want to hear about any particular topics or you'd like to share topics, please do contact me offline, okay? And with no further ado, I would like to introduce Johanna Rothman to talk to us about lead and serve others, focus on the team, not individuals. Yay, Johanna, a round of applause for you. Woo. Do the virtual round of applause if you can also. Can we do that? Can we do that? Do you guys know how to do that? Yes, Ned knows how to do it. Who else? And Dan and Robert. And I'm going to stop sharing so that Johanna can start to share. Thanks for joining. We have like 50 people today. Woo! I will be quiet now, Johanna.
It's totally fine. If you want to add anything, I am fine with that. Let me pop out the chat so I can see the chat. Okay. If you see me, look over there, that's my other monitor. So I have all your smiling faces and names and the chat over there. So I'm Johanna Rothman. People often refer to me as the Pragmatic Manager because while I am informed by research and theory, I only talk about what has worked for me and my clients, right? So this is all grounded in reality. People rarely say to me, but in the real world, they might say, that does not fit my context, but I am firmly grounded in the real world. This talk is about 3 books I wrote and published this year. And I'm going to show you all the pictures of my other books. Like, okay, let's talk about the team. Let me get there. So I want you to think about your best and worst managers. And in the chat, what do you remember from either your best managers or the worst managers? And just put something more in the chat. And yes, Gregory, I have many books. My name is Johanna Rothman. I have a little problem with books. I buy them. So Kristen, it looks like you're a great manager. Talk to you about feedback. Max talks about autonomy. Worst is command and control. Best they listen, worst they don't. Trust is a good thing. Micromanaging unawareness, lead by example is great. All kinds of really nice things. Worst managers won't even answer questions or respond to me when I need help. Oh, yeah. That's actually the bring me a solution, not a problem myth. So there's all kinds of, and notice when I asked you what you remembered, a lot of this stuff is how you feel, right? You remember how you felt when you worked for the best and the worst managers. You remember certain pieces, but you also remember the feelings of how you felt. I will share this with you now. I have learned how to name my feelings. I do not come from the feeling people as where I start. I have to say, instead of being bored, I can be frustrated or upset or something, but there's something behind bored, and there's something behind feeling appreciated and all those feelings. So if you are like me, you might have a little trouble identifying what the feeling is, but you absolutely remember how people made you feel and what they did to make you feel that way. So what I find is that when I think about the power of leadership, we might think about really great leaders. We might think about, not so great leaders. And we always remember how we felt. And one of the reasons why I say that excellent leadership means that we serve the team is because, especially in an Agile, any Agile approach says a team of cross-functional people decides which work they will do, probably with guidance from a product person. They decide how they will do it. They decide how they will check their work, and they decide how they will deliver that work. The team decides everything, which means Agile leaders need to really focus on the team, not just the individuals. So when I'm going to talk a lot about flow efficiency here, right? Flow efficiency thinking, not actually measuring flow efficiency. I leave that as an exercise for the reader or the listener. But I find that when we work as a team in flow efficiency, all of us together as a team, that's the fastest way to create outcomes. We reduce all the delays in the team and between teams in the organization. We learn much faster and better as a team, and we make agility much, much easier. So our organizations are still focused on resource efficiency. What does each person do according to their talent, skills? Yeah, whatever. Maybe specialization is the right way to do it. So this talk is about I can switch the focus from the individual to the team. And for me, the very first piece of this is you create an environment where everybody can lead. Everybody can work to their best effect. So let me just review with you Lewin's equations, which is the behavior is a function of the person in their environment. And if you think that you have people with performance problems, you might say, I wonder what the environment is. That's often what I do when I work with a client. I say, what's the environment like? Does the team actually work together? Does the team work as separate individuals? Do they have psychological safety? Are they facile with using their virtual and physical locations? Do they offer each other trust? Does the manager offer trust to the team? And how do the organizational policies and procedures help or hurt how the team performs their work? So if you think that there is somebody who is not delivering as a solo person, it's often because the environment and the reward system does not actually lead them to believe that they can deliver something useful. So this environment business is all about the culture. And let me talk a little bit about how culture might create teams or not. Edgar Schein, in his organizational culture book, has artifacts, values, assumptions, all that stuff, which to me boils down to what people can discuss, how people treat each other, and what the organization rewards. So I have seen in this upper right corner that the team really is a full team where people work together, co-creating, co-delivering, co-learning, all of this as a team. And sometimes I see pieces of teams, right? Some teams, if you have a team greater than 6 people, you probably have broken into several sub teams, which is fine as long as those sub teams are cross-functional. But what I see in way too many organizations is that people are still working alone. And that's all about what the organization rewards. If you only have individual-based rewards, you are much less likely to create that cross-functional team that really works together over time, right? So this is why I'm talking today. So there are 7 principles in the books that I've laid out. The first is clarify your purpose. Second is build empathy. Third is build a safe environment. Fourth is seek outcomes and optimize for an overarching goal. That overarching goal is really important, as we'll see later. Encourage experiments and learning, catch people succeeding, and exercise your value-based integrity. So I'm going to illustrate the principles with stories as I proceed. So I'm going to talk about these 4 things showing the various principles. So the first is, what is the team's value? I often ask managers what their value is, and what value do you as a manager offer the organization? And when I think about a team, I often start with a product or service. So we talk about feature teams, product teams. We might even have customer service or customer support teams. Those are really work groups, but they can also use Agile approaches. And if I start with the product or the service that the team offers the organization, I often start in the right place, which means that every single team has an overarching goal, right? That supports an overarching goal that aligns with that product or service. You've heard the term outcomes over outputs. This is where the rubber really meets the road. If the team only has outputs, where management really wants to see the schedule of variance from when the team thought that they would deliver a given feature versus when the team actually delivered that given feature. The schedule of variance is an output. As the team developed that feature or developed that feature set, which is a lot more likely, did the team learn what they no longer had to do? Did the team learn that the customers wanted something different? All those learnings and all of those interim deliverables are outcomes. And we need, as teams, to help our managers understand the difference between outcomes and outputs. So if the team has this overarching goal, right, where this team actually works with the customer support team, which is really a work group, possibly marketing, possibly another team or 2 across the organization, to deliver that overarching goal, now the team has a really great outcome that they can work towards. And when the team works towards that, then you can start to move from only individual goals to partly team-based goals and compensation. Well, at least compensation. I still think that the team has to have this overarching goal, but you can move to partially based team-based compensation. So when I teach this to my clients, they say, okay, what's this overarching goal, JR? What's this business about outcomes? And I often say just to them that they look at Goico's impact mapping. I find that that's a really great way to talk about overarching goals and outcomes that you want to see. And I like to say, focus on what the customers can achieve with this product or service. And for me, that works really well. You might actually be using OKRs. I have found that way too many OKRs are really MBOs, management by objectives. Oh, OKRs are objectives and key results. An objective is supposed to be a corporate-wide objective, or at least a department-based objective, as opposed to a small objective. So I'm not recommending OKRs anymore. I really recommend impact mapping. And I want to suggest that you avoid individual goals that cascade down from something else. Often every kind of cascading leads to outputs, as Sherry talked about in the chat, and we want outcomes, something customers can use, something that gives us learning, something that we deliver for some reason. Now, what's really interesting about these overarching goals is that teams really coalesce around the goal. They learn together. They can create technical excellence because they have a goal to work towards. And the more the team checks itself as they proceed, the faster they finish. So a lot of, dare I say this? Well, I'm going to say it this way. A lot of more traditionally minded project managers and even scrum masters, right, or any other facilitator project based actor, for a lack of a better word. And a lot of managers still think that if you can take shortcuts and deliver fast. I have never found this to be true. As you can tell from my gray hair, I'm an old programmer. I started to program professionally in 1977. So every time I focused on technical excellence, I was able to produce my work faster. I have found that this is true in anything I produce. I've been consulting. I was a project and program manager. I was a manager. Every single time I focused on technical excellence in any of my roles, I found that I was faster. If I had left kind of threads undone, they always came back to haunt me later. So I really like to ask this question: how can the team create small experiments and learn from them? And those small experiments are all focused around this goal. So the second piece is team-based leadership. I have met many managers to say, it's my job to offer feedback and coaching. That's true. And the team needs to learn how to offer feedback and coaching to each other, because managers are no longer in the day-to-day work of a team, right? Not an agile team. The more the agile team can offer feedback and coaching to each other, the more they promote psychological safety inside the team. So if you're a manager, your job is to teach feedback and coaching and offer meta feedback and meta coaching, which is feedback about the feedback, coaching about the feedback, feedback about the coaching, coaching about the coaching, right? That's the meta level. I really like when managers offer labs during work hours. I've taught how to create feedback and coaching labs. I've coached managers on how to create those labs and offer them to the people that they lead and serve. Because what I find is very few people have the technical chops to be able to say, I understand how to offer feedback and coaching on a regular basis. I like that, David. If things are going well, you could leave. You could just leave the team alone. That's true. If the team already knows how to offer each other feedback and coaching, don't do it. But I have not found that a lot of people are facile with feedback and coaching.
Yeah, and sorry, JR, a quick comment on this. I've seen that in our Zoom virtual world now, there are some program status meetings or stuff where they're the people that are doing the work and the managers, and all of a sudden on the call, the majority of the talking has been done by the managers. The only people with the camera on are the managers. And then all of a sudden, like, it's creating this sense that I don't even hear anymore. At least before, I could see the other people in the room. I could see some of their facial expressions. Now it's as if like, I don't even hear from them. Why is 70% of the talking being done by the people that are not doing the work? The managers, when it's very status focused, troubleshooting focused kind of a meeting. I just wanted to share that experience I'm having now I'm in the virtual world that we're in also.
Right. And so I was not going to talk about status meetings, but I will. Thank you, Max. I have not found that status meetings in any organization, in any kind of approach, are useful. If the team cannot create status on a big visual board, in person or virtual, then the team needs to learn how to do that. I offer plenty of tips for that back in Manage Your Guide to Modern Pragmatic Management and Create Your Agile Project in Agile and Program Management. And especially if it's a program, you should never have a status meeting. Never, 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 never. And this is why when I hear stories like that, Max, I realize that the people on the team don't have the ability to offer feedback to their managers. It's not psychologically safe to do that.
Exactly.
And yeah, and so this is one of those things where I always say start where you are. So I would say in a team, learn how to talk with each other. And then if you see this, I see that Nawaz, I hope that I said your name correctly, but if Nawaz says good developers are mostly introvert, sorry for the stereotype, that's true. And what I say to that is practice, observe at least 2 or 3 of these horrible status meetings, and then offer feedback privately to the people doing the work. That allows you to prepare in advance and to say what's on your mind. You might even write a script. I'm not trying to teach developers not to be introverts, not at all. But introverts need to think about, when do I take in the data? When do I use my my information to offer feedback to people? How do I prepare for a real-time conversation? That's really the question. That's a different conversation. And Max, if you want me to talk about introverts versus extroverts and feedback and coaching, that would be a really interesting talk. I should develop that.
Absolutely.
All right, so that's later. Yeah. So introverts, I am a flaming extrovert. I really think in the moment, what I feel, what I think is through my tongue before I even know what's in there. I know that you introverts are very different. So we can talk about feedback and coaching so that you can prepare for a real-time conversation. Okay, so this is about feedback. And one of the reasons I said you might want to offer feedback to the managers at a different time is that I find that it's not very useful to embarrass people at any time, right? Embarrassment is not feedback. That's when people talk about the feedback gift. That's not a gift. That's just I will just say this: poop on a platter. Sorry. I hope that nobody is eating lunch. Sorry. But this is about the peer-to-peer feedback approach that Esther and I wrote in Behind Closed Doors, Secrets of Great Management. I'm going to go on now so I don't miss the end of this. Okay. So I think of coaching as offering options with support. A lot of people still think that a lot of coaching is teaching. It's not just teaching. There are 9 senses of coaching, and I really want an environment where everybody can coach everybody else, not inflicting help on other people, right? That's also, when you inflict help, you often, sometimes, create an embarrassing moment for people. I do not want to embarrass other people, right? That's really a big thing. So I don't know if you understand, if you've ever read Hackman's Leading Teams, but I really like to ask this question about the kind of team that you might lead and serve, or the kind of team you are a part of. I've changed Hackman's table, because of course I always change things. There are several pieces of what a team might do as they progress from a manager-led team to any other kind of team. And who sets the direction for the team, who designs the team and the organizational context, who monitors and manages the work process and progress, and who manages the team process. In a self-directed team, which all Agile teams should at least be self-directed, I find that the team does all the work process and progress and manages their process. A lot of managers still have to do the hiring and firing. While I might not be so happy with that, that's a reality in most of the teams I work with. So if your team is not a self-directed team, if it's still more manager-led, if the manager is monitoring and managing the work process and progress, your managers have a little problem with lack of delegation. So how fast can you move to a self-directed team? For me, that's all about how fast you deliver. The more often you deliver something of value, this outcome thing, the more often your manager will trust you to be a self-directed team, right? We talk a lot about self-managing teams, self-designing teams, self-governing teams. I would be happy with a self-directed team, really, really happy with that. I don't see that a lot. So how do you get to frequent deliverables so you can show your progress? Working as a team, right? It's all about the team in my experience. So as a manager, I really want to see regular one-on-ones. So if you do not have regular one-on-ones with your manager now, I highly recommend that you ask for them, right? Managers, even in Agile organizations, need one-on-ones with their regular one-on-ones with the people that they lead and serve. The point of a one-on-one is to build a trusting relationship so you can learn what every single person wants and needs from their work, that you check in on career development and you listen for bad news. So David, I'm going to talk about the stop meeting so often in a minute. Hang on to that. So David is challenging me. Why? He says, why? If we trust people, we can stop meeting with them. So I'm talking about a 20 or 30 minute one-on-one, which the first structure is on the left here, where if you are not accustomed to one-on-ones, then you probably need that. There's a second structure. And David, for you, I really like something like this, a minimal one-on-one structure where we say, what do you need? What do you need anything at all? And is anything getting in your way? I find that when I have a meeting once every couple of weeks, even with people whom I trust to deliver, even as a team delivers on a regular basis, they often say, I'm really having trouble with our DevOps team. And that to me is an early warning signal. I'm not sure why any Agile approach has a DevOps team, right? To me, that doesn't make sense. why don't you integrate DevOps into the team? So I would say, as a manager, that's an early warning signal that there are delays in the process. Do we need those delays? Is there some kind of a check that we execute there? Or is there something else that's going on? So I find that a 20-minute meeting every other week, even with people I trust, I learn a whole lot about the system of work. Remember, the manager's job is to create a system of work, an environment in which everybody can do their best work, where everybody can lead. So I find, that when I ask this question, what can I, as your manager, do to help or even support you, any of that? We might only have a 5 to 10-minute meeting once every other week. But I find that organizations are really quite messy. I have been in many organizations, and the larger the organization, the more the bureaucracy interferes with the work of the people doing the work. And David says, I can call that meeting myself. That's true. Maybe you can. I found that when I manage really, should I say, I'm not sure how to say this. People who are quite introverted really did not want to talk with me at any time during the day, even as I was their manager. So what I did instead was I said to them, I would like to make sure that I will check in with you on a regular basis. I am happy to do that by email if you would like, because I want to make sure, well, I know that you're not running open loop. I want to make sure nothing is getting in your way. So with those people, David, I actually had a one-on-one with email. And what I learned after about 6 months of doing this is that some of those people actually wanted to talk with me in person, but not very often. And I still said, since HR demands this, I need to have at least one meeting a year with you in person. I would like to have more frequent meetings with you. So I said what I wanted, and I said, here's what I need to do. I need to make sure nothing is getting in your way. That's really the key here, and that your career path is going well. It's going where you want it to go. So I found that for those couple of people, I found that those minimal one-on-ones were really, really helpful. And Teresa said, yes, there is such a thing as managing up. Now, David said the random meetings is context switching. Absolutely. That's why I scheduled one-on-ones when it was comfortable for the people I led and served. They decided when I would have one-on-ones with them. I did not decide. So,
Yeah,
there's,
and I just wanted to say very quickly, I hear David's point very much so, especially nowadays where people are communicating so much more via Slack and Teams, and there's just a lot of communication that might happen without an in-person kind of a meeting, but then having to see how that person feels about it. And Johanna, I think your example was perfect of, hey, how about if we do it via emails to start with? But then they had a need at some point, and then it kind of organically grows from them. But it just varies. It varies according to the person and the team. And all
yeah.
that.
Yeah. So one thing that's really important is to make sure, I don't know how many of you have read Maker Schedule, Manager Schedule, the Paul Grant essay. Maybe it's Manager Schedule, Common Maker Schedule. That's the one where if the manager insists on when you are supposed to have a meeting with when a manager dictates when you have a meeting with a maker, that's where you have all kinds of interruptions and context switching. Thank you, David Israel. There are too many Davids here. Never too many Davids. So I find that when I think about that and schedule my one-on-ones that way, I am much more likely to succeed. So I really think this, the regular one-on-ones, really are about early warning signals, and I can catch people succeeding. That's a reinforcing feedback. And a lot of people still say they don't want to hear reinforcing feedback in public, they want it in private. And I want to do anything that will allow me to avoid performance reviews and evaluations, because they don't work, and they're all about managing money, not performance. So I'm going to skip this, people. Well, I will just say one thing. For years, people said to me, JR, you're too blunt and direct. I am. I will stay that way. That's my personality, right? I already talked about my extroversion, where what's in the brain, I don't even know what it is until it comes out of the mouth. However, somebody offered me reinforcing feedback several years ago, and they said, no, JR, when you talk like this, and they gave me an example, people can hear what you're saying. And I thought, oh, this is what people are trying to tell me when they tell me I'm too blunt and direct. So the reinforcing feedback really helped me understand how to do something well, as opposed to how to land in never land for allowing people to hear me. So let me talk about the fourth piece, creating an environment where everybody can succeed. We talk about a lot about collaboration and cooperation. Cooperation is when I do my own work and I hand it off to you, and every so often I might collaborate with you. Collaboration is when we work as a team, which means we need to weed out the non-gellers or the people who cannot do the work. My experience is that there are very, very few people who cannot do the work. I often see non-gellers where people do not fit the culture. And remember, I talked about the culture slide where we talked about how we treat each other, what we can discuss, and what we reward. If we cannot all discuss the same thing, if we do not treat each other with respect, then we really have a problem with non-gellers. Non-gellers are the kind of people that when you walk into either a physical or a virtual room, all the conversation that was happening, everybody stops talking. So when we create a harmonious whole, I have trouble with those words. That's where we really create an environment where everybody can succeed. Does everybody succeed all the time, every day? No, you will still find times when you're dissatisfied with other people, you're dissatisfied with the work, you're dissatisfied with your work itself. But if we can learn from them as a collaborative team, we are much more likely, to succeed. So you might have seen the Scruton and Whitaker quote, the culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leader is willing to tolerate. If you tolerate ungellers, if you tolerate bad behavior, the performance of your team will go down over time, and people will continue. You in effect reinforce that worst behavior.
So true. This is so sad and so true.
It is. I mean, this is exactly what happens. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I really like, if you're a leader on the team, right? You're a leader, you're a manager. I really like to say, especially when you represent the team to other people, you say the buck stops here. Truman was famous for saying that. That's where you take the responsibility for the team, right? You take the responsibility on behalf of the team. You still give credit to the team, but you never blame the team. This is why managing yourself is so, so important. So I've given you a lot of ideas here, and I would like you to move from this theory, from the theory of the individual and the 10X developer and the hero and all this stuff, to thinking about how you would apply this to a team. Well, first, definitely experiment, right? what could you do in any of these ideas to experiment with them, apply them, engage the team, and then realize the results. Now, engagement is not asking people to become engaged. This is where trusting the team is really a lot more useful. So I often say, instead of the word empower, substitute the word trust. So if you say, I empower you to do this thing, say, I trust you to do this thing, right? That's the real notion of empowerment. Then choose where you will experiment and learn more. And I'm not asking you to change your beliefs. I'm asking you to change your behaviors at any level here. So I want you to really think about how your culture drives your behaviors. If you are so focused on resource efficiency, right, does your culture reward only resource efficiency, right, where everybody works according to their expertise? If your culture rewards that, it's really hard to move to a collaborative team. And agile approaches require collaborative teams because we work to maximize our rewards and minimize our punishment. So we can get flow efficiency, we can get a collaborative agile team or a collaborative agile work group as long as our rewards start to move towards collaboration. And that's where the manager really needs to work as a manager. So your work as I don't know how many people here are managers, but the more of you who are managers, the more you need to have this conversation repeatedly with your manager and repeatedly with HR. That work you do about moving to team-based rewards is going to be invisible to the teams that you lead and serve. And it is so, so necessary. And what's really interesting is this is all about book 2 in the Modern Management Made Easy series. But in book 3, I talk a lot about teams of managers. So we talk about feature and product teams. We talk about senior leadership teams. We need to have teams of managers at all levels. In fact, teams of scrum masters, teams of product people, right? If you don't reward collaborative work for the scrum masters, why would they collaborate across teams or any other facilitative project-based person? If you don't reward project owners for working together, why would they? So if you think about culture and collaborative work and flow efficiency, the more we need agile teams that collaborate in flow efficiency, and the more we need teams at all levels of the organization. So I hope that you stay in touch with me. I write an email newsletter called the Pragmatic Manager. You can see back issues there. I hope that you link with me on LinkedIn. The Modern Management Made Easy books are an MMME as an easy way to remember. I've written all these other books and they're everywhere. So I'm going to stop my share and go to the chat and see what the chat has to say.
Yes.
So,
Johanna, yeah, because we have about some time, like 10 about for some questions. And if I may, I would like to feed off the last point that was put in the chat by Brian, because that was the first thing that I was going to say. And it's around, Brian, if I understood this correctly, it's around team-based compensation, rewards, or whatever you want to call it. And I feel so passionately about this because we so compensate people individualistically, and yet we expect everybody to work from a team communal perspective. And I'll just end with saying that my best reward that I got was about 10 years ago, where my whole team got $100 bonus on the spot for work that we all did together. It was the best feeling ever. But Johanna, how would you, because at the end of the day, we do work because we get compensated, right? How would you, what ideas or things have you seen? And Brian, is this what your question was around, right? Team-based.
Yeah, that's it, right, Max? I mean, we've been talking about this for years, that, we need more team-based rewards, team-based compensation, all that. I've not seen that it's been I've not seen success stories anywhere really of where that's happening, and I think that would help, and we should be asking what we can do to move that part forward.
So the first step is to get allies, I think. So one thing I have seen is that when you talk to HR, and let's face it, HR is the holder of the compensation system, right? We might not like it, but that's where we are. So I would start to have, I did this years ago. I had one-on-ones with the VP of HR on a regular basis, and I explained, here's my collaborative team. This is way before I had the words flow efficiency and resource efficiency, right? I didn't even have those words in. And I said, I want people to work as a collaborative team, but I'm rewarding them based on their individual rewards. And the problem I have is I cannot tell who has done what. And I don't really want to tell who has done what. I want to be able to reward them. Now, I'm not saying we move to exclusively team-based compensation. I don't know how to do that, but I am quite happy to move to some kind of a better ladder-based compensation and have partial compensation for the team. So back when I facilitated an urgent project that was going to save the company, right? That was fine. The team that I worked with really had someone we would call a product owner on that team. She was actually the technical writer, but she worked as a project owner, and she would say, we need this, we don't need that. We need this now, we don't need that. We at the time, this is in the 80s, we worked with continuous integration. We could not do continuous delivery because we were still mostly shipping on, I think, tape or CD-ROM, right? So continuous delivery was a problem, but continuous integration was not a problem. And we got customers to come in and see the product. So she was the heart and soul behind this team. My management said to me, and because this was the 80s, they said, you did a really great job, JR. We're going to give you 10 grand as a bonus for this team's work for the project shipping on time. And I said, hold it. I facilitated the team. I don't actually deserve any of this. The team deserves it. So I went to the team and said, I first said to management, I'm going to give the team their bonus. And I told my husband I was not going to get the bonus. He was not that happy. However, and I went to the team and said, 5 people on the team, 10 grand, we could do 2 grand each, or you could choose what to do. Every single person except for this woman said, we need to give half of it to her, and the rest of us will take the rest. Real evenly split it. And no, they did not give me anything, which was fine because I didn't have to do much for them. They were really a self-organizing team. They were much more than self-directed. So I said, fine. And the most difficult thing was to move to HR and senior leadership, because they said, no. How can you let the team decide? I said, I just did. And they just decided. And so she took us all out for a really wonderful dinner in Boston. She even gave me an extra $100 for the babysitter. I mean, she was very generous because she was overwhelmed by this experience. And that's just one example. I have not yet read Payoff, Gregory, but it's on my to be read pile. Yeah, I find that it's just so important. Teams will figure this out, even if they say everybody gets the same amount. Everybody will do that.
Yeah,
it's really fine. Yeah,
that's awesome, JR. And if I could help out with the questions, there was a question from Kristen also. that says you've authored quite a few books. Which do you suggest starting with for someone new to a company with very dysfunctional teams? First, Kristen, do say your company, so I'm sure to not go to that company in the future. But yes, JR.
She can also be anonymous. That's fine. So, so there are two, Kristen, there are a couple of books. One is Create Your Successful Agile Project. If you have a dysfunctional team, I would absolutely start there, because there are several things. If you are the facilitator for that team, regardless of what you're called, Scrum Master, Coach, Agile Project Manager, I don't care what you're called. Create Your Successful Agile Project explains how you might actually find a way through to help create a collaborative team, right? Because you're not going to start with a collab, especially if everybody's been rewarded on their contributions. You're not going to start off with collaboration. You will also see all the various traps. And you might say, I can start with the team, but I might also have to do a whole bunch with management. I might have to enlist my manager to actually make this work. I can see you're nodding. So yeah, I think I would start there. And if you are going to stay with distributed teams, you might also read From Chaos to Successful Distributed Agile Teams.
Yeah, that one definitely caught my eye. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. All the books, all the time.
Maybe a last question. I don't see what the last question was here. Does anybody want to come off mute? Have a last question.
Oh, so Max, let me ask you, and let me answer this to you.
Yes.
Team compensation is also time to go to a conference again. Yeah, I find so. I am a huge fan of learning. I thought I learned before I became a consultant. I realized how little I learned before I became a consultant, and I was ravenously reading, and I was ravenously I read lots, I read all the books all the time, right? And I was reading news groups, all that stuff. I thought I was really learning. When I started going to conferences and talking with people in the hallways, not just the presentations, I was literally working with the top people in the field, right? So Max, I don't think we've met at a conference.
Not yet.
But
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. But I met Leland, who suggested me for this group at a conference. And Leland and I have stayed in touch over years, right? It must be at least a decade.
Yeah.
So this is why we go to conferences, not because you're going to eat out and drink a lot, but because you have access to people you don't have access to otherwise. And there are people like me who go to sessions, who meet people for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, extrovert thing, who go to the coach, who offer coaching, who will happily meet you privately. I mean, this is what I do at conferences. So
Yes.
Conferences are an excellent way to do this.
Yes. And it was just an example for sometimes you might not be able to give a bonus to the whole team or compensate the whole team, but you can get creative of even saying, okay, team, you did an awesome job in this project. Next Friday, block out the whole afternoon, go watch a TED Talk together, like do something together that even it provides a feeling that you're being compensated as a team for having to work as a team. I think that sometimes we have to get creative if we don't have the money and funding from HR or the executives, right? Just try to think outside the box, kind of thing. But folks, first of all, round of applause for JR, Johanna Rothman. Thank you. It's hard to hear it through the Zoom, but they're clapping. There you go. Virtual claps also and everything. And I would like to say thank you to everybody that has joined from Kansas City, India, London, Toronto, Buffalo, Boston, Michigan, etc., etc. And especially, we're always a majority, our Austinites that joined, and we had over 50 people. And for those of you that were asking, we recorded the session. So you will have a recording of the session. I will get the deck from Johanna. I'll post that on the meetup, and I will also post on the meetup the chat. It's gonna come as a text file. I'll post that so you have all that information. Feel free to keep in touch with folks and stay safe, everybody. We start on time, we end on time right now, and see you at the next one. Thank you, Johanna. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Good day.
Goodbye,
you.
Sri. And thanks for joining at 10:30 at night, 11 from India.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Yeah.